Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in. In this video I want to take a look at how to make a beat in Cubase. And the first thing I want to do is to record my own samples. And for this I'm now setting up Alien 6. And apparently this takes a longer while because my hard drive is just slow in the system. Okay, finally, so this is where I will initiate a program, so I will start from scratch with a complete new patch basically. I want to use the sample recorder, and I also want to make sure that Alien 6 can actually receive audio input, so I will activate sidechain way at the top. Now there are a couple more preferences that you can set. For instance, the record folder I just set to a place that I can find back on my hard drive. I will also rename the whole take, or maybe call it rec for recording. I guess that's well known. I also want to include the date of today, and I also want to include the time, and that is all done automatically. So with those variables you can set up a naming scheme that makes sense to you. Well, this one makes sense to me, so I can find them back on my system afterwards. I could be including more, but for this take I think it isn't really necessary to have some sort of root key number set or anything. So I'll just leave it at that. Now to the left you can also set some file settings, like the channel source if you want to make mono files. Have different sample rates and bit depth, but this is all just very standard right now. Down here I will opt for auto normalization, and then we head over to the main settings page where I will select sample mode as auto next, which will give me the opportunity to just keep recording, and each take will be put onto a new key on my keyboard. Now the first key I want to set to lower C, and then I want to set the audio threshold to be -30 dB, so this is when the audio recording will actually start, and -65 dB for the stopping point basically. In this case I only want to record my new samples, so I don't need the pre-configured synth zone, so I will just delete it from the tree. And now we're good to do an actual recording. In the mappings view that would be where the synth zone is mapped across all keys. But now that everything is empty I can actually start to fill up the whole space and all the keys with my different sounds. Now Alien is set up to receive sound, set it up for me, put it onto each and every key that I pre-configured. The only thing missing right now is another channel that will actually route audio to Alien. And for this demonstration I will just add another audio track, which I will just call audio in. And now I have to map that audio track to Alien. But before I do that I want to make sure that any audio is coming in on the right channel from my hardware. And this is where it can get very complicated depending on your interface. I do have an interface connected to my machine, which is an M16DX by Roland, and that one has 18 different inputs. So I have to know which input my microphone is connected to, or in this case an OP1. For the M16DX to work with Cubase I have to set up the right audio driver, which you can do over here in the studio setup. In this case I can just keep it because it's already selected. And over here you can do some more tricks to your hardware, and that really depends on what the audio driver has been programmed for. Okay, so we set up an audio track that receives audio from my external hardware, like so. And that's the bus that I configured previously. And here's the audio signal. Okay, cool, so that I can now pre-listen in Cubase. And I also want to have the audio signal being routed into Alien 6, which is a VST3 feature. And for that I select Halion 6 sidechain as the send destination for the Audio 1 stereo track. Now as soon as I select the monitoring function on the audio and stereo track that I created, that receives the signal from my synthesizer, that is being routed directly into Halion 6, where I can see the little indicators for the input source. The volume is quite low at the moment, but I'm only focusing on the correct signal path. Now in Halion 6 you have this record button, which is over here, and as soon as you hit that, Halion is armed for recording, according to my settings. Now sound design is the most fun part for the guy sitting in front of the controller, but it might be very boring to watch. So you can also skip a little bit forward if you want. Or maybe skip the next 20 minutes. I'm just looking for sounds that I think might be sounding good afterwards in a hip-hop composition. So I now hit record and start putting some chords in. And I think it's working because every new sound is mapped to a new key in Halion 6. So now you can also play them back, of course, by just hitting the keys. I think with this setup, and this is the reason why I'm sharing this, you really have a very fast way to sample and play back. I know that there is some science to sound design, but it's also fun just to play around with the knobs. Now some of those sounds are very nasty. Some parts also turned out to be very nice. I'm not sure if this is just me, but sometimes those sounds remind me of the Matrix. If I found the time, I would actually rename those samples. You would have Matrix 1, Matrix 2, or R2-D2 on crack or something. I just added that sound to the collection, just in case you want to make a track with it, let me know. To the left you see 3 different effects that I also added on top of what comes out of the synthesizer. This is just to illustrate that there's really no end, no limit to the things that you can do with sound in this setup. What I like about the OP1 is that you can really ramble up your sound within just a few touches. And the same goes for the object delay. And if you then add a little bit of reverb to it, it really gets some special character. You see, in a normal session you would actually have Halion just running in the background all the time and filter out those samples that you want later. But for the sake of this video, I just want to pick certain sounds that actually go into the sound bag in the end. Now let's make a drone out of this. Now those sweeps can be added to your beat very easily to get a transition between your loops. Now this recording session just went on and on for 1.5 hours if I'm not mistaken. And for the sake of the audience, I decided to not put every second in here. But I hope that you find it interesting to see how I do things and how I do get my character to my sound. And maybe you will give me some feedback on it. Looking forward to it. Here are the final results of this sound design session. And you can find a link in the description below, which points you towards my website. or you can download the full sample pack. Now the reason why I've recorded those sounds is of course to make a beat, and this is what we will now proceed with. I picked one of the sounds and I will just now create a MIDI event. I also enable loop recording or cycle mode. And in the following I will just put in some notes with the cursor. The reason why I'm doing it that way and not playing through the keyboard is because I don't actually have a clue in what tune I record those samples. So I'm just going by ear now. And of course it is nice to have samples of which you know the key, but I'm offering this sample pack for free, so you can't really demand that, right? And if you're lucky, your software will even recognize the key when you import the sample. But I didn't put any meta information into those samples, just in case you're wondering. And the actual result of what I'm going to make now, you could also hear in the beginning of this video. Now what you hear is, especially with guitar tunes, it is possible to pitch them down a few octaves without having any artifacts at all. And that really makes it fun to play with. Now going by ear is not always easy, especially not for the audience. But someone asked me to put the full take into my videos, so this is basically for everyone who really want to have unfiltered content. And sometimes it's quite easy to get down an idea, and sometimes it's really a heavy part of your production process. Especially if you type in every note with your mouse, which can be tedious work. So if you do have a keyboard, please use that one instead. And I will try to do the best for my next videos as well. Do you see, this is what you get when you ask for unfiltered content. But at a certain point, there's actually a reason to all of this. And what I learned over the years is that it's always necessary to try out things. Because if you don't, you might get stuck in a certain way of doing things, and that will ultimately result in more or less the same material that you put out. I think now it's getting somewhere. What is often good for hip-hop music is to have a very short release time, because that will stress the interchange between your samples and support the percussion or groove elements in your track. I think the first two samples are now aligned correctly, and it's time to search for something new. I think that sound fits as an intro. But it might need some extra lengthening to it. I also don't want to get it into the way of the bass sample. So I'm setting a lower cut at around 160 Hz. And also take out a little bit of the harshness. Now some extra delay will push it more towards the background. And I think it's now time for some percussion. We will start off with the kick drum that I will just program in like the other notes before, whether you like it or not. I guess the interesting part is that it really gets some sort of surgical that way. I also created some snare sounds, more or less. And to my ears, those can only serve as a starting point. But I think it's nice to layer them up. But what we can do is add some physical modeling to it. And here we go again with the object delay. This will make it a little bit more interesting. So the samples you're hearing now have been recorded at a previous time. But they're also part of that bundle. I think that one will serve as a second kick. There is a lot more percussion sounds in here. I'm pretty sure that sound was recorded when I was searching for tissue. Anyway, I think we can add it and layer it to the snare. Maybe just a very short part of it. Like so. And I think we need some more background atmosphere in here. I also published 2 previous sample packages, and they include quite a few percussion sounds. And I also made some recordings of pianos in the past, which I tend to use only single notes in a sampler track. And again, if you use that object delay with it, they really get a nice color and feel. And that is usually enough to play at least 2 octaves of the piano. Here you can hear that those sounds were not recorded at the same tuning. But luckily we can fix that quite easily. Now I only have to decide on the right melody. And at this stage, this can really go anywhere. wanted to have those delays last a little bit longer, so I added a compressor afterwards in the signal chain. And that makes for a nice ambient feel. I also wanted to add a little bit more of variation to the sound, and for that all those plugins by Waves usually come in handy. Now this plugin will actually make a mono-track stereo if you want. But you can also just go through the presets and find the best one suited for this situation. Problem remains that this is already a detuned song, so having more detune to it might put it out of focus. So I decided not to use that one and instead go for even more movement. Nope, that's too techy for that genre. And let's see how it fits into the context. I'm still trying to find the right melody at this part, but I hope I can give you a little bit of an impression on how the process goes for me when I record new songs, and I also want to use my own sounds in it. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and like, share, whatever you want to do. Download the sample packs, go to my website and you will find them there. And of course stay tuned for more videos. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll make sure to find some time to answer. And maybe you have a certain topic that interests you most about Cubase or beatmaking in general, just let me know. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.